Okay, so today I'm trying to rewrite try PureScript in PureScript itself. What we have right now is this application that's basically a large blob of jQuery and various other things. And I'm going to try and take the approach where I take that jQuery code, wrap it up in a foreign module, and then incrementally turn that into PureScript code. There's a few opportunities for sort of doing things more nicely in PureScript here, I think. So for example, one thing I'd like to be able to do is have this backend, stringly typed backend value here be represented as an enum type, a data type, right? So little things like that. I'm going to try and do these step by step. So we'll see how this goes. And I've just started by copying the existing jQuery application into a foreign module, pulling out a couple of exports called setup and Annette, and I've wrapped that up in a main module. Pull these in with foreign imports, and then in main I'm just calling setup, and then when the document body is ready, I call the init method. Okay, so I'm hoping to refactor this into something a little nicer, but we'll probably end up with a lot of foreign code, and that's fine. Okay, so let's see. I started by using pulp build. I'm going to set up. Oh dear. Oh, well, there we go. It seems like pulp's happy. And I have a Python server running over here so that I can just connect to this on localhost 8000. And then, this should just work. There it is. Okay, so try out some of these links. These seem to work. That's good. So let's have a look through the code and see what opportunities we have for rewriting some of this stuff. Okay, so one possibility would be to sort of break down the setup method. So this is doing some Ajax setup type stuff. And then this piece of code, let's see what this is doing. This is using this jQuery query string plugin. So I think, I can't remember if I wrote this or found it on Stack Overflow or something. Probably the latter. So it might make sense to just break this up a little bit. That might be a nice way to start. So let's see, we can, so this is running when the document is ready. So it actually makes sense to move this into init. But let's start by just, we can just move this into separate setup function. So exports.setup query string plugin is a function. And it's just going to assign that thing to the jQuery query string object. So it's kind of imperative and horrible, but maybe we'll find a way to tidy this up later. And then set query parameters. This is going to be another. We can just put this in here. This seems to be, roughly the same sort of thing. We'll say call this setup jQuery plugins, and then we can get rid of this. And we'll call this setup Ajax. And then something over here should complain. Maybe I'll try using PSCID. It might work a bit better. Okay, let's say this. Okay, so the main module is complaining because now I have setup, and that should actually be setup Ajax, and also what was the other one called? Setup jQuery plugins. Okay, line 15. Okay, so we can set up Ajax here, but then we were doing setup jQuery plugins inside the callback, the ready callback. Okay, so this should work. Let's try rebuilding that. Not sure what's going on there. Okay, and then let's see if this works still. Okay, probably should just test if these things are working, so we can do that by using this gist. Actually, if we're trying to set the query string parameters, we probably should test that by changing the backend or something. Let's try looking at the Thermite backend. Okay, so that seems happy. Let's go back. All right, so that's one nice little piece of tidying we can do. Let's see what's next. Okay, so we've had some comments as we go. Why not? Setup jQuery set Ajax parameters. Set up Ajax parameters in jQuery for future. Okay, so one thing I have here is I probably should be using the jQuery effect here. I think that makes a little more sense. So let's do that. Go back to PSCID. Okay, unknown type jQuery. That's okay. So we can pull that in from the jQuery module. Apparently not. Well, let's go to Pursuit. I actually can't remember the the effect name. Maybe we just use DOM now. I can't quite remember. Oh, okay. It seems like we do just use DOM. That's okay. So really, I should have an Ajax effect, but I just want to tag something. Let's just say it's a DOM effect. Not ideal. We can come back to this later. And the same thing here. This is sort of modifying the window. Again, not really ideal, but that's okay. We already have DOM in scope. Okay, so then all of the interesting stuff is happening in initialize here. So I really want to refactor this. So let's see if we can do that. Okay, so default bundle and execute. What's this doing? This takes something called JS and something called backend, which is presumably one of those enums. It's calling the URL for that endpoint. Oh, it's getting the bundle. I see. It's getting the bundle for that backend, and then when it's done, it executes the code with that bundle. Okay, that's fine. So maybe let's start by extracting a few types. Backend would probably be a good one. Let's do that. So data backend. Okay, so we've got the core backend. We've got Thermite backend. We've got the slides backend. We've got the Mathbox backend. We have the behaviors backend. And we have the Flare backend. Okay. Let's derive a few things. So we can derive an eq instance. That might come in handy later. Backend. Odd seems like a little bit of a stretch, but who knows, maybe we'll have a map of these things as keys or something. So, okay, there we go, there's a backend type. So one of the first things we need to do with a backend is to run this backend function here, okay? So one thing I think I'd like to do before we do this is pull this out into an export. So exports.default bundle and execute is going to be a function from JS, which is presumably a string, and then one of those backend types. Okay, so let's see. Pull this out into a function. So for an import, default bundle and execute is an f_fun2. Let's see if I can get my IDE working. Something strange going on here. Not sure quite what. Let's see if there's anything in the console I can look at. No, seems to be okay. Maybe it's because I'm using the PSC package set up in the new pulp. It's entirely possible. Let's try it the other way around. Let's get rid of my PSC package file. Get rid of that directory. Okay, so open it. And we'll try installing the dependencies with var instead. So let's build. again. So PSCID. Another one of those functions there. Let's tidy that up. PSCID. Okay. So now hopefully, okay, great. Now I have the completion working. That's nice. Okay, so we said this was going to take a blob of JS and a backend. Well, let's look. Maybe actually it's not the backend type. Is it backend? This takes a backend.endpoint. Okay, so let's create that type. Let's see, type backend config equals. This is going to be a record. I know it's going to need an endpoint at least, so that can be a string. Maybe we can new type this later. Okay, so then default bundle and execute is going to take a backend config, and it's going to give me some effectful function which returns unit. Okay. So let's leave it at that for now. And JS isn't defined, so yeah, let's just define that as a new type around string. Okay, we'll call it getJS. Come on, Atom. There we go, just to unwrap the JS string. Alright, the effects go at the front, don't they? So let's believe they go like that. So let's. Okay, there we go. Not defined in the foreign module. Okay, well, we can fix that. So let's see. Expos. I think I just have to save this file. That should work. And then this is telling me that's the type. I can also complete that, which is nice. Okay. So now that we have default bundle and execute, I'd like to implement this function. Let's see if we can do this in PureScript. So this is going to take a backend and give me back a backend config by the looks of things. Okay. I expect there's going to be some errors here. I'm not doing this quite as incrementally as I should have done. But it's not the end of the world. Okay, so we'll call this get backend, and it's going to take a backend, give me a backend config. Here's the JavaScript code. Comment that out. Okay, so the backend is thermite, so let's see. Well, first of all, we should actually figure out what properties we need in here. So backend, we'll probably just give that, I can give string for now. Endpoint we already have, that's a string. Main gist, also a string. Again, lots of new typing opportunities here, we'll come back to that. Extra styling, some HTML, again, also a string. Let's line those up. Extra body, string. And then bundle and execute, give me this function that pulls the bundle and executes the code. And that's going to be a function of 2 arguments. So that's actually going to be this this type right here. I'm sure there's something, we have a backend config that's defined in terms of itself here. I'm almost certain this is going to give us an error. Yeah, okay, a cycle appears in the definition. So something a little weird going on here, and I'm sure we can find a better way to pass around this, but for now I'm just going to get around this by new typing. Okay, so now we have a non-exhaustive function. That's fine. Let's just make this exhaustive. Okay, so we need a backend config for each of these things. So maybe we can start by just copying the definition here. For all intents and purposes, the syntax should line up. Did I miss any of these? Math box, behaviors, I got those. Core, okay, that looks fine. Let's take core. Oops. Okay, let's PureScriptify the layout here a little bit. Okay, we want double ticks for strings, please. And other than that, this looks okay. Semicolon, you don't want that. Okay. Could not match backend string with type backend config. Okay, that's fine. That just needs a new type. Okay, and then we're on the next one. That's cool. All right, so let's do. Well, format looks a little bit complex, so let's do the next one, which is this one. Slides. Okay. Do all boilerplate stuff again. Really looking forward to being able to refactor this code. It's a little tricky to do right now. I think having types around is going to help a lot. Obviously something not quite right with the quotes here. Let's fix that. Okay. That's correct. Everything else looks okay. Alright. Oh yeah, the commas. Let's get rid of those. Okay, couldn't match type. Again, need to new type these, so let's just go through and do those all at once. Okay. What's next? We already did slides. You know, let's just tidy all these up at once. That's flare. Commas to get rid of. That. Oops. Oops. Good. Okay. Okay, so here's flare. Let's just uncomment these. Well, let's do behaviors first. So where's behaviors? Here we go. Yeah, that's not correct. Oops. Okay, that looks fine. Oh, what's this? Extra styling. Flare. Oh, right, that's down here. Yeah, so let's carry on. Okay, that one's slightly more interesting. Let's see what we can do here. So, we need some double quotes here. I need to get rid of some commas. Let's get some strings. Again, double quotes. this up a little bit. I'm going to look for a function to join these together, give it an array. Okay, so there's first string, second string. Oops. That looks good. I just need to escape these. Okay, yeah, this is still broken. That's fine. So again, I'll look for a function to join. Tidying this up a little bit. Oops. Okay. Okay, so just the TaNa backend to finish. So let's do the easy parts. Okay, right, so we're missing this, this bundle and execute thing. That's fine. So let's just put in a type hole. Okay. So this, yeah, this is something, you know, we could just move this into some JavaScript code for now. I think that's probably fine. Let's go back over here. Bundle, execute TaNa. That's going to be a function, again from JS in the backend. This looks okay. This is going to shim some of the React modules, and it's going to call this execute function, which actually is a closure inside Annette right now, so we need to fix that, but that's okay. So let's save that. This still needs fixing up. So use a foreign import for this. Bundle and execute that. Okay, so join takes an array of string to string, and the suggestion is that we use fold, which seems correct. Okay, so we can use fold from data.foldable, which seems like the most general one. There it is. Okay. Again, just use fold right here. Okay, great. I don't think there's a reason for this to be like this, so let's just take that out. Okay. What's next? Well, we could try running this, but I know there's going to be an issue with that execute method. So maybe let's try and fix that up first. Actually, let's just pull out a whole bunch of these things. There's really not that much stuff that needs to be closed over here. Let's see. Let's execute. Okay. Yeah, many of these we can pull into PureScript code, which is nice. Okay. Let's pull these out. Same with session. Hopefully this works, although there's a possibility that it won't. We'll see. Okay, so let's save that, save main, and try it. Alt build, optimize to JS, index.js. Okay, fingers crossed. Okay, let's see what went wrong. Compile is not defined. Where's that? Show JS.change. Let's look for that. Okay, that's here. Okay, so let's move that into Annette. That seems like the thing to do. Space these out a little as well. Okay, let's try again. Okay, try restore cached code is not defined on line 569. That's in with session. Okay, so where is try restore cached code? That's up here. So by the looks of it, that should actually work, but I have a suspicion that what's actually happening here is that the dead code elimination is getting rid of the code I want. So I'm going to try turning this off, and then if that happens to be the case, I can fix that up. Okay. No, okay, so that's not what's going on. Let's see. Well, try restore cache code is definitely not in the output. Well, we can try running the browser flag command, which shouldn't strip any code. See if that makes a difference. This time we're not running through PSC bundle. This is a non-limitation of PSC bundle. So, okay, get backend at this point. Right, that's a function. Right, this makes a lot of sense that this would not be available. So let's see where this is actually used. And what we can do is to just bring it. We can just provide it as a function argument. Okay, so it's used in compile. It's used in with session. And it's used in load options. Okay. Okay, it's used in a bunch of places. Setup, editor, with. I see. The problem here is that the JS module doesn't automatically have access to the things defined in the PureScript module. So, these things aren't in scope, which makes sense. The question is, how are we going to make them available for the time being? What I don't want to do is sort of port everything in one go, because that's sort of not the point of the exercise here. I want to try and find a way to make this function available to the JavaScript code, so that we can show that we can do this thing in stages. So one option is to just sort of provide this as a function argument. Then we're going to be sort of passing around a lot of functions. So that sort of seems like kind of a cumbersome thing when really I'm trying to, get to a point where where this function doesn't need to be passed around at all. This is sort of a temporary thing. So I'm actually just going to do something a little hacky. And maybe what I can do is I was going to suggest that what I can do is to export the function onto the window object in the setup method, which is kind of unpleasant. But you know, it'll do the job for now. So in the interest of getting things done, let's just do that. So let's import a function called export window. F1 to be a string. The thing I want, the name I want to export. It's going to take something I can export. And then, so in here, I'm just going to export. What's it called? Get backend. Like this. Go back to PureScript. Okay, so let's just define that as a little quick hack. Let's see if this works. Failed pattern match. Interesting. Okay. Alright, so this is funny. So what's happening here is I'm passing in the limitations of the my approach is sort of showing there. I'm passing in a string like this, but this is looking for the data type. Okay, so my representation isn't quite working. What's happened is, you know, you always have to be careful with the types here. The problem is, you know, exporting get backend with this type. I need a function that takes a string. Okay, so you know, we can do that here. In fact, there's a couple of little utility functions I want on backend. So let's just write those here. Backend from string. Well, that's going to be a partial function. It's going to take a string and give me a backend. Okay. Let's see. So backend from string looks like this. So these should be lowercase. Atom seems to have paused. What's going on here? Basically something's not happy. Might have to actually just kill Atom here. Close Atom and see. Okay. Okay, we're back. Let's see. Alright, what was I doing? I was adding some utility functions to backend. Okay, so backend from string is a partial function which takes a string to a backend. Let's restart PureScript again. Okay, that seems happy enough. And let's write one that converts into a string. Okay. Yep, fair enough. Okay, so now when I export this thing, what I'm actually going to do is to take a string, and I'm going to call getBackend on unsaved partial of backend from string of s. Okay, let's try browser refine one more time. Hopefully we get to a point where this is runnable again. Okay, excellent. That's reassuring, even if we had to use a horrible hack to make it work. Let's try a couple of things here. Do notation example. Oh, okay, so something's obviously gone wrong here. Cannot read property constructor of undefined in with session. Let's try something else. Let's just try modifying the code. Okay, so that seems to work. So actually at this point I'm going to just leave this. So there's obviously some issues. Something to do with getting the session or the gist or something. I'm actually not too concerned. That seems like the sort of thing that will actually get ironed out once we move more code up to PureScript. So again, I'm not being completely incremental here. I should be testing more things as I go, but just in the interest of making progress, I'm going to actually skip over this. So on my sort of technical debt list, I have this export on window thing to get rid of. I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind. This test directory, which I don't need. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so let's start off PSCID again. Okay, so let's see where we're up to. We pulled out some of these functions, and I would like to get to the point where I can actually rewrite this init function using, in PureScript, using these functions as exports out to the PureScript code. So maybe let's start working on that. Let's see if we can make a little list of all of these functions, and then I'll import them one at a time. Okay, so publish new gist. It's going to be the function. Obviously something's not quite lined up there. Looks a little better. Okay, here's another one, load from gist. It's a function, that's okay. So we have publish new gist. Load from gist. Okay. Try load file from gist. I don't remember what that does. We'll figure it out. Okay. What's the next one? Compile. Execute. Set up editor. It's interesting, we have some globals here. It'd be nice to get rid of those if we could. Okay, I've been neglecting to actually keep tabs on these. Okay, setup session. That's a lot of foreign imports. Well, ideally all of this gets rewritten in PureScript anyway. Okay, I think that's it though. Which is nice. Okay, so one other thing I need to do is I need to actually make sure I'm renaming these where they're used inside the JavaScript code. Maybe I can do that with a little regex or something. That would be quite nice. Ideal. Okay, so here are all the usages. And I want to make sure that whatever I capture doesn't start with exports dot. Okay. Looks like it's still capturing this. Yeah, that's not what I want. Okay, that looks like it's going to work. Okay, so then I can replace each one of those with exports dot the first capture. Alright, there we go. Now we have to go through and actually add the types for these things. And then after that, hopefully it's just a case of going through and actually replacing the implementations one by one. Start with something like Annette and work backwards. Okay, so let's see. With session looks like the first one. So that takes a session ID, and it seems to have some effects. So we can say that has type. Let's do all these at once. Foreign words type. Okay. So with session has type for all f of DOM. Actually, it's an f and 1, isn't it? And it's going to take a session ID, which is a string, and it's going to return you. Let's do something horrible for a second. Just add these types. Save this. These are not defined in the module. Okay, bundle and execute thermite. I thought I did define that. Did this get lost when I lost my editor maybe? Oh, it's right there. That's sort of strange, but looks like my find and replace went wrong. Set up editor width. Where's that one? Okay, fair enough. Alright. I wonder if this will work. Yeah, it was unlikely. Auto exports is not defined. Interesting. Is this maybe a... This seems like it might be a browserify thing. Wow. Maybe we can use bundle again. Now that we're not using global variables. Auto export is not defined. Strange. Why is this called auto? Auto compile. Oh, this doesn't look right. there's an issue with the find and replace by the looks of things. Obviously this is wrong. Did I miss any others? Yes, I see what's happened. Okay. There's another one. There's another one. That was another one. Maybe a little hasty with the find and replace there. Okay, let's try it now. Cannot read property execute. Okay, I think this might be the same sort of thing. Yeah. Okay. Bundle and exports. Obviously not what we want. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, good. Let's try recompiling something. Try getting an error. Okay, looks good. Error highlighting is working. That's kind of nice. So we're not in bad shape. Maybe now would be a good time to try to implement Annette ourselves. Oh well, what I really should do is go through and finish these types, I suppose. Okay, so let's do that. Let's see what types we have for these things. So try restore cache code takes a session ID. That's actually just the same as this type, which is handy. Okay, let's fire up PSCID again. Try load file from gist. Okay, okay, so this takes two arguments: gist info. This has a bunch of stuff. Gist info and a file name. Well, I guess we can have an abstract type for this. That's fine. Yeah, let's just make that an abstract type for now. So we can say data gist info. We'll figure out where to get that from later. And then this one has type f12. It takes a gist info and a file name, which we can leave as a string for now. Okay, next one, setup session. Setup session takes a function, presumably, and does some stuff. And it's called with session, so it should have the type of with session. Okay, so it should look something like this, but where this type is a callback. This type. That seems about right. Okay. Setup editor. Setup editor with. Okay, this is looking a bit more interesting. Okay, so we have a name, TA name. What's this? That looks like a string. And a language. I'm guessing that's probably a string as well. Yeah. Okay. So 3 strings and let's nab this one. Okay, so 3 strings. Okay. Alright, setup editor is next. That takes a backend, which looks like it's, can we figure this out? This takes cache current code. Okay, so this is actually the backend config tag we added. So that takes a backend config and does some stuff. Okay. Publish new gist. This is a function of no arguments, which does some stuff. It's just that. Okay, load options. This takes a backend config, does some stuff. Same as this one. Okay, only 5 more. Load from gist. Takes an ID, which is a string, and a backend, which is a backend config, and does some stuff. So we need 2 arguments. That was ID first, so it's a string, and a backend config. Okay. Hide menus. I seem to remember this doesn't have any arguments. Yes, okay, so that's the same type as this one. Executes. Okay, takes some JS, takes a bundle, which I know is also a string, and a backend, which I think is a backend config. Let's see. Yes, does some stuff. So that's 3 arguments, 2 strings, and a backend config. Make a, oh, I did make a new type of JS. That's good. That go execute. So we took 2 blobs of JS. Okay, compile. All right, that's just same as this one. Cache current code. Like it takes a backend config, and that's all. So that's this one. It looks like we're good. Let's just add a comment here. Abstract data type representing data get back GitHub API. Okay, let's just do a quick sanity check. Run it through PSC bundle. Okay. Alright, so I said the next thing I was going to do is to try to replace the Annette function. Okay, so let's see if we can do that. Okay, so somewhere in here I imported it. There's that. Okay, so I'm going to change it so that it's actually just implemented in PureScript code. Let's paste in JavaScript and see if we can just do it step by step. Let's fire up PSCID. I think it's going to be handy. Okay, so we have a function called on. Let's look at the type. So it takes a string, which is presumably the event name, and a callback, and a jQuery object, which is the window in our case. That looks plausible. And on prime takes a selector, so we don't need that. So we can just use on. So we'll have a callback, and then we need to select show.js. So we can do that by, I think it's called select. Yeah, that looks good. Select, and we give it a selector. Is that importing? Okay, looks good. Alright, we actually want to pipe that in to there. Let's try that. Okay, so callback has, pardon me, has that type. Let's do this the other way around. Okay, X has type string. Okay, I guess selector is just a new type. So let's select show.js. And then my callback has type. I have an event. And I have the jQuery object, which I don't particularly care about. And I need to run some code. So it actually tells me that compile is okay, so let's just do that. Okay. Init is unused. unused. Following definitions in the foreign module are unused. Okay, that's fine. We can actually just delete it because nothing in the JavaScript code is using it. Okay, let's do the rest. So we've done this one. And then if we select the compile label, then when that's clicked, we can run compile. Makes sense. Okay. Let's do some of these simpler ones. This looks a little too complicated. Then we have a nice little template here. When just save is clicked, then we're going to publish a new gist. Compile? Yes. Okay. When hamburger is clicked, we're going to do this. Okay, I think we can actually do this in jQuery. So we're going to select menu. We're going to pass it through something. You might have this title, we'll find it. There it is, toggle class. Fantastic. That. Okay, so that one's done. That was easy. Actually, a bunch of these are the same, aren't they? So let's just copy this. Okay, view mode label. When you click on that, we look at view mode and we toggle class and show submenu. Looks good. Let's do another one. There's backend label. Do the same thing. Oops. And then editor view. Oops. Okay, so when we click on editor view, we just call hide menus. Looks like it works. And then we finally just need to call setup session with session. Cool. Alright, so we still need to do this. Let's see. Well, we can do a part of this at least. So we're going to select this. Say on change. We're going to have a function. We're going to do some stuff. It's going to be this stuff. Okay. Okay, so we need to look for so we'll need the jQuery object. So let's see, we can we filter? Is that something that jQuery does? Maybe not. Well, we can implement it. Can we select maybe? Find? Oh, we can find. Well, find isn't really what we want. Maybe we can select from. No. Okay, well maybe we can find this in pursuit. If it's not there, we can just foreign import it, and that's fine. There's actually a lot missing from this library. Yeah, so find is going to find child nodes, and that's not what we want. Okay, so let's just bring it into scope with like this. And we can pass it JQ, and we can pass it the selector, and then .val. What's this going to do? Almost certain this. Get value. Oh, okay, here we go. No, that's for getting the value of a form element. That's not good. you know what, for the time being I'm happy to just put this into a foreign import. I think that's fine. Okay, so let's just call this change view mode. And we're going to pass it JQ. Just uncurry that. I mean, need to expand that. Okay, so let's take this JavaScript code. Change view mode. Let's foreign import that. Change view mode. It's going to do it for all f1. It's going to take a jQuery. And well, let's get the effects. It's going to take a jQuery. And it's just going to do some stuff. Okay, so we just have to export that. Let's put it with load options. Seems like the nearest thing. Or hide menu is probably more appropriate. Okay, so export stuff, change view mode is a function. Takes jQuery objects. Okay, that should be good. Alright, let's see if it works. Okay, so that works, that's good. Let's try changing the code. Let's try changing the view mode. Just code. Just output. Oh, it works. That's amazing. Alright. No errors. Good. So we're making progress. We managed to take out, we're slowly sort of extracting some types, which is good. Alright, I'd really like to get rid of this exports on window thing. Maybe we can manage to do that. Let's have a look. It might still be used in too many places. I suspect it is. Get back. Well, actually, now that everything's being called from, actually this isn't so bad. Maybe now everything's being used from the PureScript side. I can just start passing it in. So, okay, let's go through and just change all the places where with session gets used. Okay, where get backend gets used. Okay, so with session. Do I use with session inside this file? No. Okay, so I can pass it as the first argument. Then let's go and change the type of with session. Okay, here it is. So now it's going to have two arguments, and it's going to have the type of get backend. Okay, so backend to backend config. Oh wait, no, it's actually string to backend config, isn't it? Okay, so this is going to fail. Yeah, so now here when I call that function, as that here, when I call that function with session, oops, now I need to call run f. Let's just put a hole for now. Okay, so I need an f1, and I have an f2, so I can say make f1 of run f2 with session using get backend. Let's call it get backend prime, and this function. Let's call it get backend from string. Okay, so one down. What's next? Backend. Next one is load options. Okay, so backend just passes a function again. Say load options, yes. Load options is now going to be an f2 of. I'm just going to give a little type here list to this. Load options. Okay. You know, this is not exactly idiomatic PureScript code, but that's not the end of the world. The important thing is it's for the most part working smoothly. And we're doing everything incrementally. Okay, so now we have to just sort of plumb this through. I know this is called from the JavaScript code, probably not in this code though. Okay, so load options, let's find out where that's used in the JavaScript code. Okay, here's one. So in setup editor, passive get backend. So this is just sort of like manually doing the read and run plumbing in in JavaScript, which is not ideal. So that's the only place where it's used though, which is nice. So let's just deal with setup editor now. So where's setup editor? It's here. So it needs a get backend thing. Where's setup editor used? Here. Okay, so load from just get backend. Okay, where else? Yes, with session. Oh, we already have it there, so that's good. Okay, we're good. So we just need to deal with load from gist. So let's add it to that function. Go back to load from gist. That's here. The nice thing is, even though this isn't idiomatic, I can actually refactor this into, maybe I could sort of pass a record of functions or something, and have like a config object. I can pass around to the backend, to the JavaScript code, sorry. So now that we have types and we're sort of adding types to all of this stuff, it becomes easier to do these refactorings, which is quite nice. Okay, so load from gist, let's see what that's used. That's used here, so I need to just pass get backend. And that's the only place it's used. Okay, so let's see where else. Load options, we already did that one. Where else? Setup editor with. Okay, let's do setup editor with. So that's called here. And that's it. So let's just go add that. Setup editor with. Now we're going to take 4 arguments. Okay, so I need to import that. Okay. Where's setup editor with used? That's used just in the JS module. We just dealt with that. And now we're already passing it, so that's fine. Okay, where else is get backend used? Compile. Alright, so get backend. Compile is now F1 of get backend config. Compile is definitely used in here. Okay, so the type system's finally helping us. Okay, where's compile used? This should work. Okay. Is compile used on the JavaScript side? Well, I can look for exports.compile. Yeah, there it is. there's get backend. There it is again. We happen to have it in scope. That seems to be it. Okay, what else? We already did load from gist. We already did with session. We already did that one. We already did this one. What's this? Sets of editor width. That's okay. Sets of editor already done. Compile already done. Load from gist already done. I think we're good. Okay, so let's recompile. Cross our fingers. Oh, we can get rid of exports on window, of course. Okay, that's great. This wasn't working initially. I wonder why. Let's see if we can debug this. Cannot read property constructor undefined. 12.09. 12.09. Oh, interesting. Okay, let's put a breakpoint here. Oh, I can't. Why is that? Sources. Strange. Okay, here we go. So V is undefined. So somewhere I'm calling backend from string with the wrong argument. Let's have a look through the call stack. Okay, so S was undefined. With session. Ah, okay. So I'm calling $.queryString backend. Oh, interesting. I see. So, so it looks like in JavaScript this was falling back. I see what's happening here. Okay. This is somewhat unpleasant. I don't really want undefined values being passed to PureScript, so I'd quite like a way to avoid that. Maybe the way is to just have the JavaScript implement the default option. So if I were really copying what the JavaScript code we're doing here, this would just be the sort of fall through case. But I don't want to do that because that's somewhat disguising the fact that, you know, well, in any case, you know, this this backend from string function would fail. Right? So I think what I want to do is just have JavaScript provide this as a default value. Let's see if we can do that. So $.queryString here. So here I can just say all core. That should do the job. So I know now that I'm actually respecting the type of get backend from the JavaScript side. We should solve the problem. Okay, good. So let's just quickly test a few things. Just look at the code, just look at the output side by side, show the JavaScript. Can I share? Okay. Generates a gist, that's great. Try a different backend. Found my backend. Okay. So it looks like everything so far is working, and all of the sort of temporary hacks that I put in place have sort of worked themselves out. So there's still a few, there's still a few things that I would like to tidy up about this. So let's go for the top. Innit doesn't look too bad. For a jQuery application, this isn't too bad at all. We've got types, which we didn't have before. I'm plumbing around this get backend config, which is not really ideal. If this were all written in PureScript, obviously, I'd just be closing over the appropriate thing, or it would just be in scope anyway. So I'd like to get rid of that at some point. But at least the type system is tracking all of this stuff, which is good. I'd like to use the effect system a little more. Let's try to get a little more information than just this one effect. I'd like to pull more of this code with the just handling into PureScript and actually verify some of these types, make sure they're correct, and just generally sort of pull in more of this code into PureScript code. I think that would be nice. But I'm glad that what we have got in PureScript is kind of nicely typed so far. That's good. This function I think worked out quite well. I think the next step is going to be to just start keep going through some of this stuff and see if we can pull more of it into PureScript. Let's have a see. What would be a good function? Load from gist. This another thing we could do with load from gist is to pull some of this callback handling into the PureScript side. This piece of code here, the actual kicking off of the AJAX request could stay in JavaScript, but the callback handling could be moved into PureScript. I think that would make a lot of sense. What else? Compile, again, so right here we have an interesting callback, right? This callback logic could easily be pulled onto the PureScript side. That might be an interesting task for next time. This definitely looks like a good job for some PureScript code. Setup editor, I mean this looks like, I think this one's probably the easiest, isn't it? Maybe we can just do this right now. Let's make setup editor a function on the PureScript side. Let's kick off PSCID. Okay, so here's setup editor. Oh, but the problem is, of course, setup editor is called on the JavaScript side, so maybe this isn't worth doing right now. Or, alternatively, we can actually do the thing I mentioned earlier where we export this record of functions. That might not be a bad idea. Let's do that. That sounds like an interesting way to use some time. Okay, so make f_fun2. That's going to be a get backend config and a backend config. And here's the JavaScript code. Let's use the names that were originally used. So load options in F1.2, so I can run it like this. Setup editor with is a function of 4 arguments. This is obviously going to be unhappy about this. Just need to import that. Cache current code is presumably a yes. F1. Okay. That's shadowed, but I'm going to get rid of it in a second anyway. Okay, so setup editor. Let's go through this. Let's go through this exercise of actually exporting a bunch of functions. This is going to be a record of functions that we export to the foreign JavaScript code. Exported functions. Okay, so it's going to be a record. It's going to have a get backend function, which is that type. And now it's going to have a setup editor command, which is going to have this type. Okay, so now, of course, get backend config is going to get changed for exported functions. And I'm going to have to new type this, unfortunately. That's okay. Okay, so we're missing property get backend. That's going to be get backend from string. Well, it's going to be this actually. No, sorry. Yeah, setup editor. This doesn't seem. Oh, missing colon. There we go. Okay, so setup editor apparently already has the right type, so that's good. This doesn't look right, so this suggests that we use, that's obviously not right. Looks like get backend from string is not the type we want, apparently, even though it actually does have the right type. Could not my, oh, here we go, that's why. So I can just pass in the exported functions now, and the same thing here, and the same thing here. Okay, get backend was shadowed, but we can change this now. So this is going to take, we can call this exports or something. I'm kind of curious what happens now with, oh, it'll be in scope, that's fine. Oops. Okay, this should hopefully just work. Alright, let's move this somewhere else. Let's move this up to the top. This seems like a more important piece of code. And these foreign imports can get me down. Okay, so the JavaScript code obviously at this point needs to be updated. Okay, so anywhere where we are where we're passing in exported functions, you know, we're going to have to change some code here. So let's see, let's go through these. We just search for this. Compile is the first one. So let's find compile. Okay, so instead of get backend now, this is going to be imports from the PureScript code. Okay, so now everywhere we have get backend, whoops, everywhere we have get backend, it's going to actually be imports.getBackend. Okay. Is this a reserved name or something? This seems to be highlighted. Let's call it pers imports. So maybe I'll just replace this wholesale. Get backend. Okay, so replace. And then get backend will be pers imports. And we'll replace it here and here with session again. Pers imports. And I replace. Something's not quite right. This should be pers imports, not pers imports that get backend. And then this one should be pers imports. Let's just go back and make sure I didn't make that mistake a second ago. Okay, I did. Alright, let's start again. Right, so we did compile, and then it became pers imports to get backend. Okay. So load from gist. Now this time this is just going to be pers imports. And then let's find that again. Okay, so this will be pers imports. I'm going to set up editor and this one will be pers imports when I get back in. Load from gist is just going to call pers imports. Let's find the next one. Load options. This one can access the record property. Compile can receive the pers imports. Next one, setup editor with takes pers imports. This one will access the record property, and these two will get the whole record. Maybe we're done. It looked like something in here was incorrect. Yeah, pers imports there. Fine. Looks like we're done. Okay, let's try saving that. Rebuilding. Fingers crossed again. Alright, that works, so that's good. Let's go back to the start. Great. Operators works. View mode seems okay. Let's try behaviors. That seems to work nicely. JavaScript code works. Okay. It's a nice step. Alright, so I think that's probably enough for this video. Next time I'll probably just carry on working through these. Maybe I'll start with something like with session. That looks like a nice simple function to move into PureScript code. Okay, let me know if you have any questions on any of this. Thanks for watching.